Her laugh sliced through the showroom like broken glass. "Pay for the limo and I'll marry you," she sneered, diamonds flashing, crowd roaring. But when the black janitor she mocked pulled out his phone and wired $48,000 on the spot, the laughter died. Everyone froze, especially her husband, because what he said next made the whole room gasp. Diana Herring's diamond earrings swayed like accusations, and she pinched her nose with exaggerated flair. "God, Zalal, you even reek of cheap polish and desperation." Zalal Harrison stood rooted by the car's gleaming hood, his gray uniform sleeves rolled up over calloused forearms, a rag still twisted in his stained apron pocket. A half-dozen executives in crisp suits gawked at him like he'd wandered in from the loading dock, uninvited, unworthy. Diana rose from her perch on the sedan's fender, her black skirt whispering against marble floors as her heels stabbed the polished stone. She closed the distance to Zalal, near enough that he caught the floral bite of her designer perfume laced with something sharper: scorn. "Here's the deal, maintenance boy," she purred, snapping her fingers an inch from his jaw. "Cough up the cash for that $48,000 ride to save my husband's gala, and I'll marry you right here under these lights. When you crash and burn, and you will, security hauls you out for good, grease rag and all. Have you ever been erased so utterly that someone wagered your worth on a punchline? Like this video. Hit the subscribe button and tell me in the comment where you are watching from. Your support helps to us to bring more wonderful stories, and I trust you wouldn't want to miss them. Now let's dive in." The vast glass hall fell into a hush, the city skyline beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows blurring into indifferent steel. $120 million in investor deals teetered on this botched prototype launch, the self-driving limo fleet idling silent and unpaid for outside. Herring Enterprises towered over the Bay Area like a chrome sentinel of ambition, its 50-story headquarters a cathedral of innovation where electric dreams revived to life amid showrooms that hummed with leather seats and the faint ozone tang of high-tech batteries. Diana Herring had clawed her way into this world with calculated charm. At 35, she orchestrated events like a conductor of chaos, her brunette waves pinned in effortless elegance, her outfits chosen to command boardrooms and bedrooms alike. The tech elite hailed her as the perfect power consort. Her inner circle murmured of sharper edges, of the vanity that polished her rise. The crisis at the heart of it all gleamed under the showroom's halos, a revolutionary fleet of autonomous limousines, engineered for seamless gala transport with 98% precision routing and eco-hybrid drives that promised to redefine urban luxury. This wasn't just any rollout. It embodied 5 years of R&D, 62 patents, and the fevered blueprints of Detroit transplants turned Silicon Valley savants. The lead vehicle, that blood-red prototype, was meant to ferry VIPs to the night's black-tie affair in under 45 minutes flat. But for 3 frantic days, the contracted service had ghosted them over an unpaid invoice glitch. $48,000 down the drain, courtesy of a fumbling accountant. 4 backup teams of logistics pros had scrambled, 52 frantic calls yielding nothing but voicemail echoes and mounting dread. The limo would arrive, idle for precisely 22 minutes and 14 seconds, then vanish into traffic limbo with the same damning alert: payment authorization failed. Zalal Harrison knew every shadow of Herring Enterprises' marble expanse. For 4 years, he'd wheeled his supply cart through these halls, a ghost to the suits who sidestepped him like spilled coffee. His badge read facilities specialist, but the truth was plainer. He buffed chrome, mopped spills, and swallowed the daily sting of being the most resourceful shadow in the executive wing. His mechanical engineering cert from community college gathered dust in a modest Oakland flat, a faded map of paths not taken, rerouted by hospital debts and choices that cut deeper than steel. While peers networked at Stanford mixers, Zalal had picked duty over degrees. His mother's dialysis ran $4,200 a month. Coverage clawed back 55%. The equation was merciless and math-proof. The limo fiasco thickened like exhaust in a sealed garage. Diana's pre-gala huddles turned volcanic, her directives laced with ice. She prowled the showroom like a storm front, heels echoing off glass walls in clipped, furious cadences that sent assistants scattering. Empty espresso cups piled on display pedestals like fault lines, charting her unraveling grip. $120 million, she hissed at the ops team during Wednesday's meltdown briefing. That's what evaporates if this fleet doesn't roll by sundown. $120 million that could lock us into every coastal skyline from here to Miami. The coordinators, Wharton alums, logistics whizzes from UPS headquarters, huddled rigid in slim-fit blazers, their tablets cycling the same stalled invoices they'd chased for days. Their base pay topped $150,000. Their collective burnout topped out at 80-hour weeks. None of it counted now. The payment gateway spat errors at every retry, a glitch rooted in mismatched billing codes that no one seemed to clock. Lead fixer Tomas Reyes, fresh from Yale's supply chain program, sported hollow cheeks that concealer couldn't mask. His crew had thrown everything at it: wire transfers, escrow reroutes, even a frantic pitch to a rival hauler after whispers of sabotage surfaced. They'd looped in fintech gurus from Fintech Bay, payment pros from Stripe. Hell, one junior even floated blaming the building's feng shui for the digital jitters. Diana's glare raked the space like headlights on fog, zeroing in for a scapegoat. "Maybe we're bogged down by too much baggage that doesn't fit the ride," she drawled, her eyes snagging on Zalel as he methodically buffed the red sedan's fender. "Luggage that's gumming up the works for all of us." The jab landed clean. A few coordinators flicked glances at Zalel, faces flickering from awkward pity to weary nods. Lena Patel from Colombia fidgeted in her seat. She'd logged 14-hour vigils on hold with banks and still hit dead ends. Yet pinning it on the guy with the mop somehow slotted into their frayed logic. Zalel tuned it out, a reflex honed like a well-oiled hinge. Invisibility was his armor here. But his engineer's ear caught rhythms they missed. During off-hour wipes of the showroom glass, he'd linger by the abandoned contract printouts, the fine print whispering clues the pros overlooked. The invoice was denominated in euros for an international subcontractor, but the company ledger ran USD, a baseline mismatch that snowballed into chaos. The stakes ratcheted like a torque wrench. Surveillance clips from Tuesday caught Diana timing Zalel's rounds to overlap investor walkthroughs, her voice pitched just loud enough. "We're all about inclusive excellence, even down to the detail crew." The subtext reeked of patronage, not partnership. Email trails dug deeper. Staff chains dubbed him the wipe-down guy, glossing his specialist tag. Threads plotted his phase-out as efficiency trim, with one venomous chain kicked off by Diana herself, musing if he could even parse the org chart. Events lead Marco Ruiz chimed in, dropping eye-roll emojis on jabs about Zalel's entry-level vocab. The murmurs cut colder. Water-cooler chats framed him as a regrettable fixture, a quota fill-in that brass endured but never elevated. "At least he stays in his lane," one VP had muttered. Unlike that intern who thought feedback meant chit-chat. The venture backers touched down Thursday, their tinted SUVs gliding to the tower's curb like sharks to chum. These players packed $200 million in seed capital, fuel to vault Herring into autonomous supremacy. Elena Vasquez, founder of Apex Mobility Ventures, jetted in from Austin to vet the fleet firsthand. Her track record in autotech was mythic. She'd greenlit systems that flipped ride-sharing on its head, clutched 41 patents, and advised boards from Tokyo to Toronto. Her seat at the table wasn't casual. It was a verdict that could crown or crater Herring's trajectory. Vasquez brooked no bluff, no spin, and sniffed out operational snags with the keenness of a diagnostic scan. The showcase rolled at dusk. The whole firm exhaled shallow. PR had cued triumph tweets. Sales sketched Euro market bids. The lounge had stocked View for toasts no one dared jinx. Diana's cracks spiderwebbed in the quiet tells. Her signature red lip veered smudged by midday. Aides darted corridors with matcha lattes and breath mints for frayed nerves. The VIP lounge devolved into her echo chamber, where aides absorbed the tirade she couldn't air in the open. Guards clocked the thuds, fists on oak panels, heels gouging Berber rugs. All the while, Zalel ghosted through his rounds. He clocked the coordinators grinding 18-hour hauls, chugging Red Bulls, spinning ever-lunatic fixes for the payment snag. They pinned it on server lags, vendor feuds, even the tower's smart glass tint messing with signal flow. One frazzled analyst swore the atrium's acoustics were echoing bad karma into the wires. But Zalal tuned a frequency they ignored. In the hush of post-shift scrubs, when the showroom emptied to echoes, he'd halt by the prototype's dash display. The error logs hummed a tale the experts blanked on, a ledger keyed to old Detroit billing norms, clashing with the firm's flashy Cali protocols. Echoes of streetlight promises and engine grease from another life flickered in his mind, pulling him back to the Rust Belt nights where it all began. The showroom's hush wrapped around Zalal like a vice, the red sedan's chrome edges catching fractured city lights that danced across the glass walls. Diana's snap still echoed in his ears, a brittle percussion against the low hum of the prototype's idle battery pack. He straightened, rag folding neatly into his apron pocket, and met her gaze not with fire, but with a steady burn of old embers. Those eyes of hers, hazel flecked with gold, hadn't changed. They still held the spark that once lit late-night confessions under sodium lamps. But the warmth had curdled into something colder, sharper, like exhaust left too long in the pipes. For a split second, the Bay Area skyline blurred, and Zalal wasn't buffing luxury chrome anymore. He was 16 again, knuckles black with grease, the growl of a V8 rumbling through his bones like a heartbeat. Detroit's ghosts didn't fade, they revved, insistent, pulling him under the hood of memory. 8 years back, when the world was rusted steel and half-built dreams, and Diana Herring wasn't a herring at all. Just Diana Ruiz, with motor oil in her laugh and ambition humming louder than any engine he'd ever tuned. The garage smelled of transmission fluid and rain-soaked asphalt, the kind of scent that clung to your skin like a promise you couldn't shake. Zalal Harrison, 22 and all lean muscle under a threadbare flannel, hunched over the open maw of Mr. Ruiz's '78 Buick LeSabre. The old beast squatted on blocks in the driveway of a shotgun house on Mack Avenue, its faded blue paint chipped like forgotten regrets. Streetlights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows that pooled with a flicker of fireflies. Detroit in summer, alive with the pulse of Motown echoes from open windows and the distant wail of a siren chasing its tail. "Hand me the 10mm Z," Zalal muttered to himself, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his wrist. His community college backpack slumped against the fender, textbooks on thermodynamics spilling out like accusations. Classes ran days. Gas station shifts owned the nights. Sleep was a luxury he traded for socket wrenches and dreams of drafting his own hybrid prototypes. Engines that sipped fuel like whispers, not guzzlers. Brilliant, his professors called him. Broke, his bank account spat back. The screen door creaked open behind him, and there she was. Diana, 19 and radiant in a thrift store sundress that hugged her curves like it was sewn for summer sin. Her hair fell in loose waves, the kind that begged to be tangled in your fingers, and she carried 2 cans of Faygo cream soda, condensation beating cold against the humid dusk. "You gonna resurrect that dinosaur tonight, or do I need to call AAA again?" Her voice was teasing, light as the pop of a carburetor backfiring, but her eyes, those hazel gold eyes, lingered on him with a heat that made the air thicken. Zalal glanced up, grease-streaked grin breaking wide. "This ain't resurrection, D. It's resurrection with style." He straightened, accepting the soda with a nod, their fingers brushing just long enough to spark. Pop the tab, hiss of carbonation, sweet fizz cutting the oil tang. She leaned against the Buick's hood, hip cocked, watching him work. It was their ritual, him under the chassis, her perched like a queen on scrap metal, trading stories while the neighborhood cooled into twilight. They'd met 2 years back at a block party, him fresh off a shift at the Sunoco, her slinging hot. Zalal set the wrench aside with a metallic clink that hung in the humid air like a question mark. The Buick's engine ticked softly, cooling under the street lamp's amber gaze, its fresh hum a small victory against the night's encroaching chill. Diana's words lingered between them, her body warm against his, but her gaze drifted, to the distant glow of downtown Detroit spires, where glass towers pierced the smog like promises of escape. "One day, Z," she murmured, her breath feathering his collar. "When you can afford a limo instead of fixing one, maybe I'll say yes. For real." It was half tease, half prophecy, her laugh bubbling soft as she pressed a kiss to his grease-smeared cheek. But in her eyes, the strain flickered, status calling her name louder than his steady rhythm. They lingered there until the fireflies winked out, hands intertwined over the hood, engines idling in sync, his literal, hers a roar of what-ifs. Weeks blurred into that humid farewell at the Greyhound station, the air thick with diesel fumes and the metallic tang of tears held back. Diana's duffel slumped at her feet, Kellogg's emblem embroidered bold on the strap, while Zalel's calluses gripped a bouquet of corner store daisies, wilting already in the August heat. "This ain't goodbye," he'd said, voice gravel rough, pulling her close amid the rumble of idling buses and the shuffle of travelers chasing horizons. "Just a pit stop. I'll rev up and meet you there." She'd smiled then, fierce and fleeting, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw one last time. "Build that empire, Zalel Harrison. Make me proud." The bus doors hissed open, swallowing her in a belch of exhaust, and he stood frozen on the platform as taillights faded into the sodium haze. Her mother's stroke call came 3 days later. Fever spiking, bills cascading like dominoes. Purpose shifted gears. Community college on hold, gas station nights doubling, dreams downshifted to survival. Diana's postcards trickled in at first, crisp tales of Chicago winters and case studies, then silence, a ghost in the rearview. 8 years later, that silence echoed in the Herring Enterprises showroom, where the city skyline mocked him through the glass. Diana's snap still vibrated the air, her deal hanging like smoke from a backfired joke. Executives shifted in their suits, chuckles dying into coughs, while Charles Herring's silhouette loomed on the mezzanine like a judge in shadow. Zalel met her eyes, those same hazel gold flecks, now rimmed with the frost of Bay Area polish, and saw the flicker, recognition, buried quick under a mask of disdain. She pretended not to remember him, turning away with a toss of her waves, heels clicking dismissal across the marble. To her, he was just the janitor, a smudge on the chrome of her curated life. But Zalel, he remembered everything. And in the quiet spaces where no one looked, he'd been building. The fluorescent hum of Herring sublevels was a constant drone, like an engine idling too long in traffic. Familiar, grating, but navigable if you knew the rhythms. Zalel wheeled his supply cart down Corridor B7 at 6:47 a.m., the casters whispering over linoleum scarred by 1,000 hurried soles. His gray uniform hung loose on his frame, sleeves rolled to the elbows, the embroidered facilities specialist, patch a badge of invisibility. The rag in his back pocket, soft chamois, edges frayed from honest use, doubled as his talisman, wiping counters, buffing fixtures, erasing the day's messes without a trace. It wiped grime, sure, but pride too, when the suits breezed past without a nod, their cologne trails lingering like afterthoughts. "Watch the spill, Harrison," barked Tomas Reyes from the ops team. Sidestepping a dribble of coffee Zalel was already mopping. Tomas clutched a tablet like a shield, eyes bloodshot from another invoice chase, his Yale tie askew. No thanks, no eye contact, just the casual swerve, as if Zalel were part of the furniture, a wheeled bin to navigate. Behind him, Lena Patel muttered into her phone, pacing in sensible pumps, her voice a whip-crack of frustration. "Yes, the euros. Convert it, for God's sake." She didn't glance down, didn't see Zalel's subtle nod of the head, the one that said I clocked that mismatch weeks ago. To them, he was the echo, not the source. Up on the executive floors, the dismissals sharpened. During lunch rushes, he'd empty bins in the glass-walled break room, the clink of his trash bag punctuating their banter like punctuation they ignored. That new hire in marketing? Total dead weight, one VP drawled to another, fork spearing a kale salad, their laughter rolling over Zalel like he wasn't there, bent low over the recycling. Race threaded the undercurrent, subtle, unspoken, the way a black man in grease gray faded into the periphery of white-collar gleam. "Diversity hire," a whisper once carried, laced with that pitying chuckle, as if his presence checked a box but burdened the ledger. Underestimated? They didn't even estimate. He was the baseline, the zero. But Zalel moved through it like oil through a filter. Smooth, essential, unseen. By 3 p.m., He'd clock out officially, badge beeping a perfunctory farewell at the turnstile. The real shift kicked in at dusk, when the tower's lights pricked the fog like distant stars, and he traded the uniform for a crisp black polo emblazoned with silver script. Harrison Automotive Care. The van, a modified Ford Transit, matte black with ghosted chrome accents, waited in the employee lot, its belly stocked with orbital polishers, steam cleaners, and vials of ceramic coatings that could make a Bentley gleam like wet obsidian. Mobile detailing. Luxury on wheels, pulling up to driveways in Pacific Heights or garages in the Presidio, where the elite parked their egos alongside their EVs. Tonight's call sheet hummed on his dash mount. 3 jobs, stacked like cylinders in a block. First stop, a sprawling estate in Sea Cliff. Waves crashing below like applause for the unobtainable. The client, Marcus Hale, tech bro turned venture capitalist. His Tesla Model S X Plaid Edition caked in coastal salt from a weekend jaunt to Big Sur. Zalo pulled up at 5:15 sharp, the van's hydraulics hissing as he deployed the extension ladder for the roof rails. "Evening, Mr. Hale," he called, voice even as he uncoiled hoses, the ocean's brine mixing with the faint citrus of his detailing foam. Hale emerged from the mansion's maw, swim trunks slung low, a neoprene hero emblazoned across his chest. "Ah, Harrison, right on time. She's a beast, but that road spray? Murder." He tossed the fob without looking, retreating to a lounge chair with a tablet and a frosted IPA. Zalo worked in the golden hour slant, steam wand whispering over panels. The orbitals buzz a meditative thrum. He didn't chat, he transformed. By 7 o'clock, the Tesla sat reborn, paint corrected to a mirror sheen, glass streak-free, leather conditioned to butter-soft yield. Hale whistled low, circling the result. "Man, you're a wizard. What's your secret?" "Some Bay Area voodoo." Zalo wiped his hands on a fresh microfiber, the rag folding neat in his pocket, a ritual unchanged from Detroit garages. "Just persistence, sir. And the right torque." He scanned the invoice on his phone. $850, wired on the spot. Hale tipped digital, another $200, because that's how you keep the good ones. Zalo nodded, pocketing the device, the van's engine purring to life as he merged into the coastal crawl. Persistence. That's what the rag wiped away. Not just salt, but the sting of Tomas's swerve, Lena's oversight. It polished the edges of pride, kept the empire gleaming beneath the uniform's dull gray. Job 2 blurred into the velvet dusk, a Nob Hill penthouse, where Elena Vasquez's Range Rover autobiography idled under a porte-cochere, its black cherry metallic dulled by urban grit, exhaust particulates from the Embarcadero, pollen from Golden Gate Park. Vasquez herself was a specter of efficiency, emerging in a power blazer and pearls, her briefcase a slab of Italian leather. "Harrison," she greeted, no preamble, handing over the keys with the precision of a contract signing. Full interior vac, clay bar exterior. "I've got a pitch in Palo Alto at dawn. Can't roll up looking like I crawled out of traffic." "Understood, ma'am." Zalo's hands moved like extensions of the machine, clay mitt gliding over imperfections, the soft squeak a counterpoint to the city's distant honk symphony. He steamed the mats, extracting crumbs from kid-sized crevices. Vasquez had twins, a detail gleaned from overheard calls, not gossip. The range's NAV system flickered as he detailed the dash, a ghost of routes plotted, apex mobility boardrooms, investor schmoozes, the very circuits that could one day fund Herring's fleet. By 9:30, it was flawless. Headlights piercing the fog like new resolve, interior airing scents of sandalwood diffuser instead of stale coffee. Vasquez inspected with a nod. Zell pinging $1,200. "Reliable work," she said, pausing at the van's door. "Ever think about scaling? Apex could use a logistics arm like yours." Zalo's smile was quiet, the kind that hid manifolds. "Appreciate the thought, ma'am. But I'm building my own route." As her taillights faded, he logged the job, the app's glow illuminating stacks of invoices in the passenger footwell. Crisp PDFs from Harrison Automotive Care, LLC. Incorporated 3 years back, bootstrapped from gas station tips and community college refunds. "Now, 32 clients on retainer, from tech titans to old money widows, grossing $180,000 quarterly. Strategic, not splashy. The uniform hid it all, a camouflage of chamois and humility. But the knight's crown waited in the Marina District, where sodium lamps bathed a row of waterfront condos in buttery light. The address pinged familiar: 1420 Chestnut, Unit 12B. Charles Herring's Pied a Terra, a bolt hole for late nights when bored squabbles stretched past midnight. Zalo pulled into the valet shadow at 10:45, the van blending with the fleet of Audis and Porsches like a sleeper agent. The call had come encrypted, through a proxy email, Herring's assistant, routing it as discreet service. No fanfare, just the black Escalade ESV Platinum, its obsidian paint swallowing the moonlight, scuffed from a week's worth of shuttle runs between the Tower and Napa Valley tastings. He worked under the port's discreet arc, floodlight clipped to the van's rail casting a surgical blue. The Escalade's lines were aggressive poetry, quad exhaust tips growling faint even at rest, the air suspension humming a low bass note. Zalo started with the wash, two-bucket method, grit guards swirling foam into cherry-scented rivers that drained toward the storm grates. The clay bar followed, gliding over rail dings from inattentive valets, the mitts drag a tactile Morse code of restoration. Inside, he vacuumed the third-row crevices, unearthing a stray Mont Blanc cap and a crumpled gala invite. Herring Enterprises' autonomous unveiling, scripted in gold foil. Irony idled like the engine bay, warm from recent use. Charles himself appeared at 11:30, emerging from the lobby in a half-buttoned Oxford, cufflinks glinting like distant stars. His hair was silver-threaded, face etched with the calculations of a man who'd traded garages for glass empires. "Harrison," he grunted, no surprise in the tone. Discreet meant deniable, after all. "Make it sing. Got Vasquez breathing down my neck tomorrow. Can't have the ride looking like I slept in it." "Will do, Mr. Herring." Zalo's voice stayed neutral, hands delving into the leather. Lexel conditioner worked in with horsehair brushes, restoring suppleness to seats that had cradled deals worth millions. Herring lingered, nursing a tumbler of something amber, eyes on the bay's black shimmer. "You know, my wife's been on about this limo snag. Thinks it's the end of the world. Women and their dramatics." A chuckle, dry as brake dust, but Zalo caught the undercurrent, tension coiling like a timing chain. He nodded, polishing the console's burled walnut to a depth that reflected Herring's profile back at him, distorted and true. "Logistics hiccups happen, sir. Right tools fix most." The words were innocuous, but Herring paused, glass midway to his lips. "Tools, huh?" Spoken like a man who's turned a wrench or two. A beat, then Herring drained the tumbler, tossing a nod before retreating. Zalo finished at midnight, wheels triple-coated in graphene sealant, glass treated to repel the fog's insidious creep. The invoice, $2, 100, premium for the hush, hit Herring's secure portal, cleared in seconds. As the Escalade purred away, Zalo folded his rag, the fabric whispering against his thigh. Wiping pride, Herring's wife mocked him by day. By night, he buffed her husband's chariot. The empire grew in shadows, one gleaming panel at a time. Dawn crept in reluctant, the van's wipers batting back a fine mist as Zalo threaded the 101 toward Oakland. His apartment waited in a squat triplex off Telegraph, the kind of place where rent stabilized at affordable, but the walls hummed with neighbors' bass and the fridge's faithful rattle. No marble lobbies here, just a chain-link gate groaning on unoiled hinges, and stairs that creaked under his boots like old friends trading secrets. Unit 2C, 620 square feet of strategic necessity, furnished with IKEA hacks and salvaged shelving from curbside scores. The air inside carried the faint earthiness of instant ramen packets and the sharper bite of drafting ink, but it was home, his manifold, distributing dreams without fanfare. He shrugged off the polo, trading it for sweats and a faded Wayne State hoodie, the fabric soft from years of late-night vigils. The living room doubled as command center. A thrift shop desk butted against the window, overlooking a weedy courtyard where feral cats prowled like freelance scouts. Dual monitors flickered to life, the hum syncing with a distant BART rumble, A subway pulse echoing Detroit's old DDOTA lines. Online courses first. Coursera's Advanced Automotive Engineering module. Stanford's Strategic Venture Capital track. Zalo logged in, the interface blooming with progress bars. 87% on hybrid drivetrains. 92% on portfolio diversification. Headphones clamped on, he dove in. Lectures on lithium-ion thermal management. Case studies on Tesla's supply chain pivots. Notes scrawled in a Moleskine, margins crammed with sketches. Turbofan-inspired cooling for EV batteries, sketched in the negative space of Herring's Gala blueprint. Mid-morning, the second screen split to brokerage apps. Vanguard for index funds, Robinhood for blue chips, a discrete Fidelity vault for the angels. Silent investments, seeded from detailing halls. $5K into Rivian at IPO, $12,000 riding on Lucid's battery play. Returns compounded quiet, plus 23% YDD on the Rivian stake, a $28,000 windfall parked in high-yield bonds. No yachts or Lambos, just vectors, plotted like piston strokes. Strategic, he'd murmur to the empty room, echoing his mother's mantra. Build slow. Zalo. Engines don't redline on the first crank. Her photo anchored it all, a silver frame on the desk, 8x10 matte from the 90s, capturing Mama Harrison at 42, radiant in a nurse's scrubs, stethoscope looped like a laurel. Her smile was engine bright, eyes crinkled with the mischief of a woman who'd moonlighted as a Motown singer before the hospital shifts claimed her. Stroke took her at 58, 3 years post Diana's fade, leaving Zalo with a shoebox of Polaroids and a mortgage paid off in double shifts. He traced the frame's edge, thumb lingering on the glass, her hand on his shoulder at his community college pinning ceremony, pride etched in every line. "You're the drive, baby," she'd say, voice husky from chemo whispers. "Don't let the road choose you." The apartment's austerity honored that. No flat-screen excess, just a hot plate, a pull-out couch, and walls papered in blueprints. His hybrids, iterations evolving like jazz solos. Lunch was efficient. Quinoa from a bulk bin, steamed in the microwave with kale scavenged from the co-op. While it nuked, he synced to the third pillar, the startup. Bayflow Logistics, co-founded 2 years back with Rico Valdez, a Salvadoran ex-Uber engineer met at a hackerspace mixer. Rico handled the code, AI routing algorithms that shaved 17% off urban delivery times, while Zalo quarterbacked the ops, sourcing a fleet of 6 electric sprinters from a Reno wholesaler. The office? A shared WeWork pod in Jack London Square, but the real nerve center was this desk, where Slack channels buzzed with green-lit contracts. A ping. Rico's avatar, a pixelated wrench emoji. Q3 projections in. We're at 92% capacity. That partner firm from Fremont? They just green-lit the pilot. Zalo leaned in, spreadsheet blooming. 450 routes logged last month, 98% on time, margins humming at 22%. The seed round, $250K from angel skeptics, had bought the vans. Now, whispers of Series A circled, Vasquez's apex among the scouts. Bayflow wasn't Herring scale yet, but it was his, silent shares at 55%, vested in code and conviction. He typed back. Solid. Push the Fremont demo to Thursday. I'll handle the fleet prep. Rico's reply. Thumbs up, flame. Engines in tandem. Afternoon blurred into audits. Invoices from Harrison Automotive Care, batched by quarter. $47,000 from Q2 retainers, $19,000 in one-offs. Hale's Tesla, Vasquez's Range, Herring's Escalade. He cross-referenced against expenses. $3,200 on coatings from Chemical Guys, $1,800 on van maintenance at a Jiffy Lube drop. Net, $62,000, funneled 40% to investments, 30% to a rainy day fund earmarked for Mama's old church in Detroit. Scholarships for kids with grease under their nails. Not broke. Buffered. The rag on the desk caught his eye, unfolded from the van's pocket. Soft now, scented with lemon polish, a relic that wiped both showroom spills and the residue of doubt. By 4 p.m., the sun slanted low, gilding the courtyard weeds in fool's gold. Zalo logged off courses, the Stanford cert projected to certify in 6 weeks. Another layer to the chassis. He rose, stretching knots from the detailing crouch, and padded to the kitchenette. A single burner hissed to life. Kettle whistling for pour-over coffee, Ethiopian light roast, grounds measured precise as torque specs. Steam curled like exhaust plumes, carrying him back to the van's itinerary. Tomorrow, 2 Nob Hill shines, a Sausalito Yacht Club consult. The uniform waited in the closet, starched and anonymous, ready to sheath the empire come dawn. Dusk painted the window in bruised purples when the phone buzzed, a bank alert, crisp chime cutting the quiet. Zalo glanced down, the notification blooming. Fidelity alert. Transaction confirmed. Deposit. $120,000. Source. Bayflow Logistics. Fremont Partner Contract. He paused, the pour suspended midstream, coffee's bloom forgotten. The figure stared back, unblinking, milestone payout from the pilots up front, wired clean after Rico's demo sealed the handshake. Not a windfall, a waypoint. 6 figures toward the shop, the patents, the hybrid heart he'd sketched for Diana under Detroit stars. A smile ghosted his lips, quiet, unrevved, the kind that built torque in the shadows. The showroom beat echoed faint now, Diana's snap a distant backfire. Let them laugh. Engines didn't announce their power. They proved it, piston by piston, in the long haul. He set the kettle down, rag folding into his palm one last time, wiping the desk's faint ring, pride polished pristine. Tomorrow, the uniform would hide it all again. But the drive. That hummed eternal, idling for the green light no one saw coming. The coffee's steam twisted lazy in the lamplight of Zalo's apartment, a fragile arabesque against the deepening indigo beyond the window. He set the mug down, the ceramic thunk a punctuation to the alert's glow. $120, 000, wired and waiting, another layer fortified in the silent chassis of his life. The rag lay folded beside it, a quiet sentinel, its threads bearing witness to the empire's unseen polish. Tomorrow's uniform hung in the closet like a shed skin, ready to cloak the drive once more. But as the BART rumbled subterranean below, Zalo's thoughts idled back to the showroom. Diana's snap, the executive's frozen smirks, the red sedan's gleam mocking the fragility of their glass perch. Deal, he'd said. Simple as torquing a bolt. Now, with the city's pulse thrumming faint through the walls, he wondered if she'd felt the engine catch, the subtle shift beneath her heels click. Sleep came in fits, the pull-out couch creaking like an old suspension under his weight, dreams revving through Detroit alleys and bay fog alike. Dawn broke gray and insistent, the alarm's buzz yanking him vertical at 5:15. Routine locked in, black pour-over, quick ablutions in the bathroom's flicker, the Wayne State hoodie swapped for the gray uniform's anonymity. The van stayed garaged, nights off, a deliberate downshift to keep the worlds from bleeding. By 6:30, he was threading the employee entrance at Herring Enterprises, badge beeping a hollow welcome, cart's casters whispering over marble thresholds that gleamed under his chamois like they owed him gratitude. The tower thrummed with pre-gala frenzy, air thick with the ozone bite of fresh printers spitting invites and the floral undercurrent of oversprayed cologne. Showroom B, the heart of the storm, buzzed like a high-rev idol, velvet ropes sectioning off the prototype fleet, the blood-red lead sedan enthroned under halos that cast its chrome in liquid fire. Techs in polos swarmed the undercarriage, diagnostic pads chirping error-free, while PR flax herded branded swag, key fobs etched with Herring's Falcon logo, into monogrammed totes. Zalo wheeled in at 7:45, assigned to perimeter buff. Glass walls streaked from overnight condensation, display pedestals dusted with the faint silt of urban drift. Invisibility engaged, he moved like exhaust, present but unremarked, rag gliding in figure eights that erased fingerprints without a trace. Up on the mezzanine, the pre-gala huddle convened in the executive lounge, an area of smoked oak and leather Chesterfields overlooking the showroom floor like God surveying ants. Diana held court at the head of the glass-top table, her yellow blouse a slash of citrus against the neutral palette, black skirt hiked just enough to command without concession. Charles lounged to her right, silver cufflinks catching the light as he scrolled a tablet, his face a mask of calculated repose. Flanking them, Tomas Reyes and Lina Patel from Ops, sweat beading on their brows despite the AC's Arctic whisper. Marco Ruiz from Events, fiddling with a tablet of RSVPs. And a half-dozen VPs, suits starched to knife edges, their murmurs a low-frequency hum of contingency plans. Zalo caught fragments as he buffed the showroom's eastern pane, the city skyline fracturing through the streaks. Vasquez's SUVs due at noon, $120 million in handshakes teetering on the fleet's flawless debut. The glass amplified their voices, a funnel for the tension coiling below. The invoice cleared yesterday, Tomas was saying, his Yale tie askew, voice pitching high as he tapped his screen. Euros converted, ACH confirmed. But the limo vendor, Elite Transpo, their radio silent. Lina leaned in, her pumps scuffing the rug. I chased it at 6 a.m. Their ops manager claims a system flag. Unpaid balance, bounced wire. Investors land in 58 minutes. Diana. The prototype rollout needs that lead bird in formation. Diana's manicure drummed the table, a staccato-like spark plugs misfiring. Her hazel gold eyes narrowed, scanning the room like a diagnostic sweep. 58 minutes? We have a fleet of self-driving miracles parked downstairs, and we're grounded by a billing burp. She rose, heels stabbing the carpet as she paced to the railing, gaze dropping to the showroom floor, to Zalal, mid-wipe on a pedestal, his back turned but posture straight as a driveshaft. The executives followed her line of sight, a ripple of discomfort passing like a bad alignment. Marco cleared his throat, tablet glowing with the schedule. Backup haulers are en route from SFO, but traffic's a snarl, ETA 45, minimum. Vasquez won't wait, she's got a red eye to Austin post-meet. Charles stirred, his voice a low rumble from the head. Then improvise. Diana's the ringmaster here. His eyes flicked to her, affectionate but edged. Fix it, unspoken. She straightened, chin lifting as the idea ignited, her smile curving sharp as a fender flare. Performance mode, the crisis transmuted to spectacle, her domain. Gentlemen, and Lina, she added with a wink that didn't land. Let's turn this glitch into gold. The investors arrive craving disruption? We'll give them one. She snapped her fingers, echo of yesterday's venom, and leaned over the rail, voice projecting clear across the showroom expanse, laced with champagne fizz and calculated cruelty. Zalo. Facilities, man. Up here, darling. We need your expertise. The word dripped like oil on water, executives chuckling low as Zalo paused, rag folding deliberate into his apron. Heads turned, techs glancing up from the prototypes, PR pausing mid-tote stuff. He ascended the spiral stairs unhurried, boots soft on the treads, uniforms gray blending with the mezzanine's muted tones. The lounge hushed as he crested, cart left below like an abandoned chassis. Diana met him at the threshold, close enough for her perfume to curl invasive, floral venom, same as Detroit dusk but amplified. Zalal, perfect timing, she purred, gesturing him into the circle, her bracelet chiming like a warning bell. The VPs shifted, making space with the reluctance of men parting for a stray gear. Tomas eyed him sidelong, Lina's gaze flickering pity awkward. Charles arched a brow, tablet forgotten. Our little hiccup. The limo gods demand tribute. $48, 000, wired yesterday, somehow vanished into the ether. Investors inbound. You wouldn't happen to have a spare miracle in that apron. Zalal stood steady, hands loose at his sides, the rags weighed a grounding anchor in his pocket. Recognition ghosted her features again, suppressed swift, masked by the performance's gloss. But he saw it, the strain from 8 years past, ambitions roar now tuned to this glass airy. Heard the chatter, ma'am, he said, voice even as idle hum. Mismatch on the currency tag. Euros invoice. USD ledger. Bounces the auth. Murmurs rippled, Lina's eyes widening fractionally, Tomas flushing as he yanked his tablet. Diana's laugh trilled high, a backfire masking the hit. Oh, listen to Mr. Fix-It. Currency tag? Adorable. But words won't wheel the fleet. She wheeled to the group, arms sweeping dramatic, turning the lounge into her stage. You heard him, everyone. If the janitor can pay for our limo, cough up that $48,000 before Vasquez's tires touch tarmac, we'll call it fate. Right here, under the lights. Poetic, no. She flashed her diamond ring, the rock catching the chandelier in a prism of mockery, executives erupting in guffaws that echoed off the glass like shrapnel. Phones whipped out. Marco's first, thumb swiping to Instagram Live, the red dot blinking accusatory. This is gold, he muttered, angling for the shot. Diana's poised flare, Zalel's unflinching calm, the skyline framing the farce. Lena hesitated, then joined, her TikTok feed pinging notifications as viewers trickled in. What's the tea? Gala drama. Tomas filmed sidelong, a smirk cracking his fatigue. Even Charles leaned back, a faint smile playing, the room's oxygen thinning to spectacle spark. Diana leaned in, voice dropping conspiratorial but loud enough for the mics. Come on, Zalo. Show us what a facilities specialist can do. Or is this where we call security for the punchline? Laughter swelled, a wave crashing over him, VPs slapping tables, Marco narrating low, live from Herring HQ, Janitor versus the Limo Gods. Smash like if you're team underdog. Zalel didn't flinch. The rag burned faint in his pocket, a talisman against the tide. He pulled his phone, unassuming black slab, case scuffed from Van Dashes, and scrolled to contacts, thumb steady as a piston stroke. One tap. Bayflow's encrypted line, Rico's alias glowing. Rico, he said when it connected, voice pitched for the room but calm as bay fog. Herring's fleet snag. Elite transpo cancel. $48K Euro wire. Front it from the Fremont escrow. Priority rush. Prototype match. A pause. Rico's murmur crackling faint. On it. Z. Routing now. Zalel nodded to the void. Done. The line clicked dead. He pocketed the device, meeting Diana's gaze. Hazel gold locked on unreadable steel. The lounge teetered, laughter faltering to titters, phones held high like torches at a wake. Marco's live chat exploded. Wait, he called someone? This real. Bet he dials triple-O. Diana recovered first, her trill slicing the hush like a revved throttle. Done. Oh, honey. She clapped slow, theatrical, circling him as heels clicked marble echo of Detroit driveways, twisted cruel. What did you do? Order an Uber Black. Or maybe a lift with extra legroom for your dignity. Fresh guffaws, the VPs leaning in, Marco zooming. Savage. Comment below, who wins this roast? Lena shifted, discomfort etching her brow, but Tomas snorted, egging it. Charles watched silent, fingers steepled, the mezzanines rail his perch. Zalel stood rooted, the city's hum vibrating faint through the glass, a reminder of engines idling beyond the show. 28 minutes, ma'am, he said simply, descending the stairs without haste, boots soft as he reclaimed his cart. The showroom swallowed him, rag resuming its glide on a forgotten pedestal, but the air crackled, eyes tracking from above, phones capturing the exit like a plot twist scripted in grease. The clock bled, 25 minutes, executives clustering at the rail, Diana's performance fraying at the edges as she refreshed her phone. Vendor portal blank, no reversal ping. Marco's live surged to 2K viewers. Spill the tea, subscribe if you're here for the chaos. Don't ghost like that limo. Hit notifications or you'll miss the drop that floors everyone. Tomas paced, muttering conversions. Lena fielded a Vasquez text. En route, 12 sharp. Charles remained statue still, but his gaze sharpened on Zalel below, buffing the red sedan's fender with methodical arcs, the chrome blooming under his touch like a confession. 15 minutes. A murmur from the lobby. Tires on asphalt, sleek and purposeful. The showroom doors parted with a hydraulic sigh, admitting a vision in obsidian. The lead limousine, twin to the prototype, its self-driving suite humming faint blue under the hood, lines predatory as a panther's prowl. No fanfare, just precision, the vehicle gliding to the velvet ropes as if summoned from ether. The driver's door popped. Crisp suit, white gloves, clipboard in gloved hand, and he strode the marble, heels echoing Diana's but devoid of venom. "Delivery for Herring Enterprises," the driver announced, voice carrying clear to the mezzanine, where the huddle froze mid-breath. He extended the clipboard, receipt fluttering like a white flag. Prototype match, Autonomous Elite Series, full charge, ETA to Galasite, 18 minutes flat. Paid in full, $48,000 euro equivalent. Courtesy of Mr. Zalal Harrison. The room, showroom and lounge alike, petrified. Techs straightened from their crouches, PR totes slipping forgotten. Upstairs, phones dipped, Marco's live chat detonating. WTF just happened? Janitor paid? Smash subscribe. This reversal's just starting. Diana's hand arrested mid-air, her laugh's echo dying strangled in her throat. The executives gaped, Tomas's tablet clattering to the table, Lena's mouth a perfect O. Charles rose slow from his Chesterfield, silhouette sharpening against the skyline as he gripped the rail, eyes boring down, not to the limo, gleaming pristine under the halos, but to Zalal, who stood calm by the red sedan, rag-pocketed now, the ghost of a smile tracing his lips like torque settling in. Diana's laughter faltered, a choke disguised as a cough, her diamond ring suddenly loose on her finger. The driver's words hung, exhaust in still air, as Charles leaned forward, voice slicing the silence like a cold crank. "How exactly does my janitor have $48,000 to spare?" Charles Herring's voice cut through the showroom like a cold start ignition. Precise, probing, the low timbre carrying the weight of boardrooms where fortunes pivoted on whispers. The obsidian limousine idled at the velvet ropes, its hybrid hum a subtle undercurrent to the frozen tableau, headlights slicing the marble in twin beams that pinned Zalal where he stood. The driver's clipboard dangled forgotten in gloved fingers, the receipt's ink gleaming wet under the halos, $48,000 etched like a verdict. Executives clustered at the mezzanine rail, suits rumpled from the frenzy, phones still clutched but screens dark now, the live feed stuttering into static as reality outpaced the spectacle. Marco's thumb hovered over pause, his earlier call to subscribe, hit notifications or miss the drop, fading into irrelevance against this raw unraveling. Zalal met Charles's gaze across the gulf, unflinching, his uniform's gray sleeves bearing the faint sheen of recent polish, apron pocket heavy with a rag that had wiped away 1,000 slights. The city skyline framed them through the glass walls, indifferent spires blurring in the midday haze, as if the Bay Area itself held its breath. Below, techs had abandoned their diagnostics, tools clattering soft on the floor like spent casings. PR flacks exchanged wide-eyed glances, totes spilling branded fobs in a scatter of silver. The air thickened with the faint ozone tang of the limo's charging port, mingling with the floral residue of Diana's perfume, now cloying, a ghost of performance turned trap. Diana moved first, her heels a staccato retreat from the rail, the click echoing hollow off the chrome accents of the prototype fleet. Her yellow blouse, once a banner of command, hung askew at the collar, a single strand of her pinned waves slipping free like a confession. She descended the spiral stairs in a rush that bordered on flight, skirt whispering against the treads, manicured hand trailing the banister for balance. The executives parted for her, instinct, not courtesy, as she crossed the showroom floor, diamonds flashing erratic in the light, her hazel gold eyes locked on Zalal with a ferocity that masked the fracture beneath. "How?" The word coiled in her throat, unspoken yet screaming, pulling her back to Detroit shadows where engines idled warm and promises hummed in the dark. "Zalal," she hissed when she reached him, close enough for the heat of her flush to bridge the gap. Her voice pitched low but laced with the venom of a cornered throttle. The driver shifted uneasily, clipboard retreating to his side, but Diana ignored him, her gaze raking Zalal's face, those steady brown eyes, the jaw set like forged steel, unchanged from the boy who'd grease her father's Buick under street lamps. "What the hell is this? You think a phone call and a prop erases the punchline? Explain yourself. Now." Her fingers twitched, as if to snap again, but the gesture died midway, uncertainty bleeding through the gloss. Demands, yes, but answers? She needed them like air, to rebuild the stage she'd torched in her own fire. The executives filtered down behind her, a murmur swarm descending. Tomas clutching his tablet like a talisman, Lena's pump scuffing tentative steps, Marco pocketing his phone with a glance that screamed this is bigger than viral. VPs clustered at the periphery, whispers igniting like spark gaps. Harrison? The mop guy. Elite transpose his. Their earlier guffaws curdled to coughs, ties loosened in the sudden humidity of doubt. Charles remained above, silhouette etched against the mezzanine's oak, fingers drumming the rail in a rhythm that echoed distant pistons. Calculated, waiting. Zalal didn't answer her directly. Words were exhaust. Action, the drive. He turned slow, deliberate, boot heels grounding on the marble as he gestured toward the limousine. A sweep of his calloused hand, open-palmed, the rag's outline faint in his pocket like a hidden blueprint. The vehicle gleamed under the spotlights, its autonomous suite pulsing soft blue through the dash, lines predatory and pristine, a mirror to the red prototype mere feet away. "She's yours," he said simply, voice even as bay-tide, carrying just far enough for the cluster to lean in. Elite transpose lead bird. Charged, routed, ready to roll Vasquez's crew to the gala without a hitch. No more flags. Diana's breath hitched, a stutter like a flooded carburetor, her eyes flicking to the limo, its falcon-embossed grille, the herring logo etched in chrome, the very beast she'd mocked him for not affording. Flashback clawed unbidden. Detroit, 8 summers scorched, the air thick with transmission fluid and Faygo fizz. Zalal at 22, flannel sleeves rolled, leaning against her father's La Sabra in the driveway, a spiral notebook thrust toward her under the buzzing street lamp. Look. D. Hybrid sketch. Regenerative braking feeds back to the pack, cuts emissions by 30%. Clean power for the streets. His eyes alight then, grease-streaked fingers tracing lines of graphite and dream. She'd laughed, soft, indulgent, flipping the page with a tease. Cute, Z. But engines like that. They need backers, not back-alley fixes. Disbelief, wrapped in affection, but the seed of doubt planted deep. Ambitions roar over purposes hum. Now, that sketch echoed in the limo's underbelly, haunting her like exhaust in lungs. The driver nodded confirmation, stepping forward with the poise of a courier delivering fate. Mr. Harrison's authorization cleared at 11:52 a.m., ma'am. Bayflow Logistics handled the bridge. Full escrow transfer. We're green. He extended the tablet now, digital signature glowing. Z. Harrison, Principal. Whispers erupted proper then, the executive's circle tightening like a compression stroke. Bayflow? That's the startup routing half the peninsula. He owns it. Tomas yanked his screen, cross-referencing frantic, Lena's hand flying to her mouth as Marco muttered, "Holy, this is the drop." Zalal let the revelation idle, his gesture lingering on the limo before dropping to his side. He didn't gloat, engines didn't rev for applause. Part owner, he clarified, voice threading the murmurs without raising. Bayflow's mine and a partner's, AI routes, electric fleet, the works. Handled the snag because it's what we do. Quiet fixes. A pause, his gaze sweeping the cluster, not accusatory, but inclusive, the rag in his pocket a weight that grounded the shift. As for the tech under her hood. He nodded to the prototype beside it, the red sedan's dash flickering sync with its twin. Harrison Consulting Group licensed that hybrid core to Herring last quarter. Regenerative sequencing, thermal mapping, your engineers slotted it seamless. Keeps the charge at 98% through city crawl. The words landed like a torque wrench snapping home. Tomas's tablet slipped from numb fingers, clattering marble. Lena gasped audible, her pumps rooting her in place. Marco's eyes widened to saucers, the viral kingpin reduced to a spectator in his own script. This rewrites everything. VPs exchanged glances sharp as diagnostic probes. Consulting group? The patents. That's his? Whispers swelled to a low roar, circling Diana like smoke from a seized piston. Janitor? More like Shadow CEO. How'd we miss this? The air crackled with recalibration, suits straightening as invisible ledgers flipped, the underestimations bill coming due in flushed cheeks and averted eyes. Diana's world fractured in the glare, her image, the poised consort, the event's unassailable architect, splintering under the pressure like safety glass under impact. Her cheeks burned, not with the flush of command but the scorch of exposure, hazel gold eyes darting from the limo to Zalel, searching for the boy she'd left at the Greyhound's diesel belch. Flashback surged fiercer, that same notebook, post-sketch, her fingers lingering on the page as they sat hood-perched, fireflies winking like faulty relays. "You'll change the game, Z," she'd whispered, but her mind wandered to Kellogg's crisp halls, the lure of status humming louder than his hybrid's promise. Just make it fast. Disbelief then, a gentle dismissal. Now, it haunted, a backfire in her chest. I called it cute. And he built it. For them. Without me. Her hand trembled at her side, diamond ring catching the light in a mocking prism, the performance's curtain torn ragged. She opened her mouth, demands curdling to a whisper. You, how? But the words choked, humiliation's vice squeezing tight. The executive's stares bored in, pity threading the awe, her earlier snap replaying in their minds like a looped diagnostic. If the janitor can pay. Laughter's ghost, now her noose. Charles descended then, his steps measured on the spiral stairs, Oxford Saul's whispering authority where Diana's heels had stabbed chaos. The mezzanine rail released him like a throne vacated, his silver-threaded hair catching the halos as he crossed the floor, parting the whisper swarm without a word. Executives fell silent in his wake, Tomas retrieving his tablet with a furtive scrape, Lena folding arms as if to shield from the chill. Charles stopped short of Zalel, close enough to catch the faint lemon polish on his uniform, the chamois rags outline a subtle bulge that spoke volumes now. His eyes, steel gray, appraiser's cut, traveled from the limo to Zalel, then to Diana, lingering there a beat too long. Suspicion flickered, not overt but coiling like a serpentine belt. The calm in Zalel's posture, the fracture in hers, the shared flicker of something deeper than a billing glitch. Connections, unspoken. How a facilities specialist knew her venom's vintage, how his tech pulsed in their veins. Charles's jaw tightened fractionally, cufflinks glinting as he extended a hand. Testing, not conceding. Impressive. Harrison. Bayflow. And the core license. We owe you. Zalel clasped it firm, calluses meeting silk without apology, the grip a piston handshake. Brief, powerful. Just business, Mr. Herring. Engines run smoother with the right sync. No elaboration, the rag stayed pocketed, pride wiped clean for the moment. Charles nodded slowly, release lingering as his gaze slid to Diana again. Her waves disheveled, lips parted in unvoiced regret, the woman he'd wed for her polish now cracking under unpolished truth. Deeper currents stirred in him, the way her eyes avoided Zalel's, the haunt in her flush, echoes of a history he'd never audited. Who was he to her? The question idled, unspoken yet revving low. The cluster held, the limo's hum the only motion, its blue dash syncing with the prototypes like twins reunited. Whispers reignited faint. He's the silent partner. That explains the margins, but subdued now, respect threading the awe. Diana stepped back, heel catching a seam in the marble, her balance a micro-stumble that Marco caught on reflex, phone resurrecting for the frame. Humiliation's weight bowed her shoulders, the image of the untouchable consort fracturing into a woman glimpsed raw, flawed, haunted by sketches she dismissed under Detroit stars. Flashback's final twist. Zalel closing the notebook then, his grin undimmed. Watch me, D. This is just the idol. She'd nodded, kissed him fierce, but boarded the bus anyway. Ambition's roar drowning purpose's promise. Now, that roar backfired, smoke in her lungs, disbelief's ghost whispering you were wrong in the engine's steady thrum. Charles turned from the handshake, his posture shifting to command the space, but his eyes returned to Diana, probing, the suspicion solidifying like cured epoxy. The executives watched, breaths held, the showroom's glass walls reflecting their tableau back distorted. Power inverted, chrome gleaming judgment. He leaned in close to her, voice pitched for her ears alone at first, but carrying in the hush, a quiet crank turning slow. "How do you know my wife?" The silence deafened, swallowing the limo's hum, the city's distant pulse, leaving only the echo of engines idling in the void. Past and present colliding, torque building to the brake. The gala's champagne fizzed like over-revved spark plugs in crystal flutes. The Herring Enterprises ballroom a swirl of black ties and sheath gowns under chandeliers that dripped light like molten chrome. Vasquez's convoy had purred in seamless. $120 million inked on linen napkins amid toasts to disruptive resilience. The Obsidian limousine ferrying VIPs with the precision of Zalel's silent code. The prototype fleet idled in the valet line, red lead sedan gleaming under sodium arcs, its hybrid core, Harrison Consulting's gift, humming approval in the night air. Charles worked the room like a seasoned crankshaft, cufflinks flashing as he spun the snag to agile innovation, his fury banked but smoldering beneath the gloss. Diana ghosted the edges, her yellow blouse swapped for a midnight silk sheath that clung like second skin, but her hazel gold eyes darted hollow, tears mascara ghosts lingering in the powder room's mirror. The event rolled flawless, brand burnished, but the real engines revved beyond the velvet ropes, digital, insatiable, devouring the hashtag LimoBet into legend. By the cocktail hour's midpoint, Marco Ruiz's feed had metastasized, 150K views on the spliced reel. Diana's snap-slicing venom, Zalel's calm call, the driver's clipboard drop like a guillotine blade. The chat scrolled frenzy. Hashtag LimoBet is everything. Janitor King slays the elite. Hashtag respect the janitor. Drop a heart if you're rooting for the glow-up. Algorithms feasted, pushing the clip to for you pages across the bay, threads unraveling on X like frayed belts. From mop to mogul, how Herring's shadow saved their shine. Thread 1/12. TikToks layered it with trap beats and slow-mo tears, creators stitching reactions. When your ex flexes harder than your hubby, racking millions in hours. TechCrunch spun first. Janitor pays $48,000 to save CEO's gala, the underdog blueprint behind Herring's hybrid pivot. Wired followed, embedding Zalel's licensed patents. The Grease Genius, how a facilities specialist designs powered Silicon Valley's next ride. Bloomberg blinked in at midnight, headline blunt. Bayflow's silent founder, the $120 million limo that wasn't just a ride. Outlets piled on, CNN's quick hit reel, Forbes' deep dive profile teasing, from Detroit garages to Herring Helm. The story's torque twisting from schadenfreude to fable. Hashtag LimoBet trending national. Hashtag respect the janitor a clarion for the overlooked. Zalel felt the quake first in the employee lot, post-shift. His uniform shed for the black polo of Harrison Automotive Care. The van's dash pinged insistent as he merged onto the 101, Rico's line, voice crackling with static glee. "Z, you're viral, man." Bayflow's inbox? Flooded. Apex Mobility just wired a meet. Vasquez herself wants your routing AI for their Euro rollout. Zalel's grip tightened fractionally on the wheel, city lights streaking the windshield like diagnostic trails, the rag on the passenger seat a quiet co-pilot. He nodded to the empty cab, voice steady as idle. "Route it through the WeWork pod. No splash." But the calls cascaded. A VC from Andreessen Horowitz, voice smooth as billet aluminum. "Harrison? Your regenerative sketches in that wired piece. Pure torque. Let's talk seed for a spin-off." Then Lucid's engineering lead, breath quick over the line. "The thermal mapping in Herring's core? That's yours. We've got a bottleneck on our air packs. Consult." By Oakland's weedy fringe, his phone hummed hot. 10 voicemails, 15 texts, automotive firms scenting the designs like hounds on fresh rubber, Rivian probing fleet logistics, a Detroit transplant at GM floating a heritage collab. The glow-up they never saw, Zalel thought, merging into the triplex chain-link shadow, the van's hydraulics hissing settle. Not broke. Building. The Empire's chassis, once cloaked in chamois, now gleamed exposed, strategic, unyielding. Dawn cracked gray over the courtyard, feral cats scattering as Zalel brewed pour-over in the kitchenette's hiss. The Moleskyne's margins crammed with fresh vectors, Apex equity swap, Lucid's thermal tweak. The apartment thrummed with the BART's subterranean pulse, an echo of Detroit's old DDOT rumble, but the real vibration hit at 8:47. A Herring Enterprises prefix, Charles's assistant routing crisp. Mr. Harrison, the CEO requests your presence. Executive Suite, 10 a.m. discreet. No summons to HR's chill. This was the airy, smoked oak and skyline views where deals downshifted to dynasties. He arrived in the uniform, gray anonymity, rag pocketed like a talisman, badge beeping him past security's sidelong stairs, whispers trailing like exhaust. That's him, the limo bet guy. The elevator hummed to the penthouse floor, doors parting to marble that gleamed under his boots, the air laced with leather and ambition's faint ozone. Charles waited alone in the corner office, floor-to-ceiling glass framing the fog-shrouded bridge like a canvas of conquests. No entourage, no Diana, just the man in a half-buttoned Oxford, silver hair tousled from a night's damage control, a tumbler of black coffee steaming on the desk blotter. He rose at Zalel's knock, extending a hand sans cufflinks this time, grip firm as forged alloy. "Harrison," Charles said, voice gravel-worn but edged with respect, gesturing to the Chesterfield opposite his perch. "Sit. Coffee." Zalel declined with a nod, settling into the leather's creak, the rag a subtle weight against his thigh. The skyline loomed indifferent beyond, but Charles paced to the window first, back turned as if consulting the bay's currents. "Last night, you didn't just save the gala. You salvaged the narrative." Vasquez signed triple the ask. "Your Bayflow Bridge was the hook. And those designs, the core that's powering our line. Herring's been running on your idol without a credit line." A pause, his reflection fracturing in the glass. Fury's embers from the showroom now recast as fuel. "I won't punish ingenuity. That's not how engines turn." He wheeled back, perching on the desk's edge, eyes steel gray locking steady. "I'm spinning off a new division. Autonomous Innovation Lab full mandate. Hybrids, logistics, the works. Let it. Equity stake, C-suite title. Build what you sketched in those Detroit napkins." Zalel held the gaze, the offer idling like a fresh crank. No burnout, just potential. Calls from Apex, Lucid, the VCs flickered in his periphery. But this? Herring's chassis, his designs at the heart. Poetic torque, the underestimation's full reversal. "Appreciate the route, Mr. Herring," he said, voice even as thermal balance. "But it's not about the title. It's the build. Give me the lab, the patent's clear, and I'll sync it seamless." Charles's nod came swift, a handshake sealing the shift. From facility's shadow to innovation helm, the uniform's gray soon traded for boardroom broadcloth. As Zalel descended the elevator, phone buzzing anew. "Rico, GM's on line 2, the tower's hum felt different, resonant, his frequency now woven in. Across the bay, Diana's reckoning revved brutal, the media's swarm descending like a convoy in gridlock. She'd fled the gala's afterglow to the pied-a-terre in the marina, silk sheath discarded for sweats that hung loose on her frame, the diamond ring twisting idle on her finger like a loose bolt. Dawn's light slanted through blackout blinds, but sleep evaded. Flashback cycling. Zalel's notebook under street lamps, her laugh's soft dismissal, the greyhound's hiss swallowing her ambition whole. The phone lit first at 6:12, a Kellogg Alum Group chat exploding. "Diana Ruiz? The limo bet queen? Girl, spill. That janitor your ex from Mack Avenue?" Old classmates piled on, unearthed from Facebook husks. "Remember her ditching Z for the suit life? Karma's got AV8. Journalists circled next. TMZ's inbox ping. Exclusive. CEO wife's Detroit dirt. Abandoned blue-collar beau for Bay Glam? Gossip sites feasted. Dumois blind item morphing viral. Silicon Siren mocked high school sweetheart turned janitor. Turns out he's the silent mogul. Receipts. With grainy Greyhound platform pics surfaced from a Motown archive, her duffel slung, Zalel's daisies wilting in frame. By noon, it crested. People magazine sidebar, from Motor City Muse to Galagaff. Diana Herring's roots run rusty, pairing her red carpet gloss with Detroit driveways, quotes from her father's old neighbors, Bright girl, but always chasing the shine. Left that Harrison boy high and dry when his mama got sick. CNN looped a cheerin'. Viral backstory, the ex she left who built an empire. Old flames DM'd pitying. Saw the clip, D. You okay? Z always had that quiet fire. The Pide Terry's marble chilled under her bare feet as she paced. Tears dry now but throat raw, the vanity's mirror cracking under scrutiny's weight. Charles's texts arrived curt. PR's on damage control. Stay low. Fury's echo from the showroom, but laced with distance, the deceit a wedge widening slow. Abandoned roots, ex-janitor. The narrative stuck like grit in gears, her rise recast as ruthless Rev, the woman who traded respect for status stripped bare in pixels and print. Zalo clocked the storm sidelong, Rico forwarding threads, a wired reporter's polite probe. Care to comment on the personal angle? He declined, voice to voicemail even, just business. Focus on the tech. The rag stayed pocketed through the afternoon's calls, Empire's calls now overtaking the undercurrent. Bayflow's Fremont pilot greenlit double, Harrison Consulting's patents queued for herring integration. By dusk, the apartment's desk glowed with offers. Apex's term sheet draft, Lucid's consult fee at 6 figures. He logged them methodical, Moleskine filling with torque specs for the new lab, the viral roar a distant backfire to his steady hum. Twilight bled purple over Oakland's hills as Zalo traded the polo for a fresh Wayne State hoodie, keys jingling soft in his pocket. The drive to Mountain View Cemetery wound through eucalyptus groves, fog coiling like cooling exhaust, the Hyundai's tires whispering over cracked asphalt that echoed Detroit's pothole scars. Mama Harrison's plot waited under a modest oak, granite marker etched simple. Evelyn Marie Harrison, beloved nurse, Eternal Drive. 1962 to 2020. Weeds encroached faint, but Zalo knelt, chamois rag from his pocket wiping dust from the stone with figure-eight care, grime erased, pride polished eternal. He placed the business card first, crisp stock from Harrison Automotive Care, embossed silver. Zalo Harrison, principal. Building routes to tomorrow. Tucked beside it, a single white rose, petals unfurling soft in the breeze, thorns clipped to spare the earth. Mama, he murmured, voice gravel warm against the quiet, thumb tracing her name's curve. The engines caught. Bayflows rolling, herrings offering the lab. And D, she sees it now. But the drive. That's yours. The BART rumbled distant, a subway heartbeat syncing with his, the skyline's glow pricking the fog like stars aligned. No cameras here, no hashtags, just torque, transferred quiet, the empire's roots deep in her soil. The white rose drooped gently under the oak shadow, petals catching the last slant of twilight as Zalo rose from the graveside, chamois rag tucked back into his pocket like a folded flag. Mountain View's paths crunched soft under his boots, eucalyptus whispering overhead, the fog's chill seeping through his hoodie like cooling exhaust after a long haul. Mama's stone gleamed faint in the receding light, her name a quiet manifold distributing peace into the earth. Eternal Drive, unrevved by the viral storm raging across the bay. Zalo's phone had buzzed thrice on the drive over. Rico with Apex's revised terms, Charles confirming the lab's charter, a wired fact-checker circling polite for quotes. He'd silenced it all, the Empire's calls idling for this ritual, the torque of legacy outweighing the day's clamor. Night deepened as he threaded the 101 back to Oakland, the Hyundai's wipers batting phantom mist, city lights pricking the dash like diagnostic pins. The triplex loomed chain-link familiar, courtyard weeds silvered in sodium glow, but sleep evaded, flashbacks idling unbidden. Diana's snap in the showroom, her tears black rivulets at the gala's edge, the greyhounds his 8 years prior swallowing her silhouette whole. One day, when you can afford a limo. The tease echoed now, not cruel but catalytic, the spark that tuned his purpose sharper. He paced the apartment's confines till midnight, Moleskine open to hybrid iterations, the pour-over gone cold on the desk. Evelyn's framed smile watched from the shelf, eyes crinkled in that nurse's mischief. The drive's yours, baby. Don't let the rain rust you. He nodded to the glass, finally crashing on the pullout as the BART rumbled subterranean, a subway lullaby sinking his breaths to the earth's steady hum. Dawn broke reluctant, fog thick as congealed oil over the bay, the tower's spires ghosting through the haze like half-forgotten blueprints. Zalal clocked in at Herring by 7:15, uniform gray and starched, rag chamois fresh in his apron, a deliberate downshift, the lab offer pending but unclaimed, his rounds a ritual of grounding before the gears ground new. The employee garage hummed subterranean, a cavern of concrete pillars and flickering fluorescence, the air heavy with a metallic tang of brake dust and the faint, acrid bite of battery runoff from the EV chargers. His cart's casters echoed off the low ceiling, a metronome to the distant rev of morning commuters above, oil stains blooming on the floor like Rorschach maps of hurried lives. He wiped down a spill near Bay 17, coffee grounds from some XX thermos, methodical arcs that polished the concrete to dull sheen, the rag absorbing without complaint. The garage's maw swallowed him whole, a sanctuary from the mezzanine's murmurs, but echoes carried. Footsteps sharp on the treads, heels that stabbed rather than clicked, descending from the executive lifts. Diana emerged from the shadows at 8:42, her silhouette fracturing under the halos. Midnight silk traded for a trench coat cinched tight, waves loose and rain damp from the lot above, no makeup to mask the hollows under her hazel gold eyes. She'd driven herself, Charles's Escalade left idling in the valet for his 9 a.m. board call, her own sedan a sleek Audi she'd parked crooked in the overflow, keys clutched white-knuckled. The media swarm had chased her from the Pied a Terre. Paparazzi flashes at dawn, a Dumois alert buzzing her phone mid-shower. Update. Herring wife ghosts interviews, sources say marriage in neutral. Old classmates' texts piled like unpaid invoices. D. The clip. You good? Z was always the real deal. Shaken, stripped, pride's chrome dulled to raw alloy, the consort's gloss eroded by the gale of her own gusts. She spotted him mid-wipe, frozen by a pillar in Bay 23, the red prototype's understudy, a loaner limo from Elite Transpo, idling nearby for a post-gala buff. Zalal straightened slow, rag folding deliberate into his pocket, the fluorescence casting his face in stark relief. Steady brown eyes, jaw set like tempered steel, unchanged from the boy who'd torque her father's Buick under Detroit lamps. No surprise in his posture, just the even idle of one who'd sensed the backdraft coming. Diana crossed the expanse hesitant, heels scraping concrete in a rhythm off kilter, trench coat shedding faint mist from the drizzle that had kissed the lot above. The garage's chill raised gooseflesh on her arms, but it was the weight in her chest, humiliation's residue, mixed with a gasoline tang of regret, that chilled deepest. "Zalal," she whispered when she reached him, voice cracking like a flooded starter, close enough for the faint lemon polish on his uniform to mingle with her rain-slick Chanel. Her hands twisted the coat's belt, diamonds absent, left on the vanity, too heavy for this descent. The loaner limo's hood loomed beside them, chrome grille staring blank witness, its hybrid hum a low thrum echoing their shared pulse. You embarrassed me. In front of everyone. Charles, the board, the feeds, it's everywhere. #LimoBet, they call it. Like I'm the joke. Tears welled fresh, not the gala's performative spill but raw, spilling hot down cheeks stripped bare, smudging nothing but truth. Zalal held her gaze, unflinching, the rags weighed a grounding torque in his pocket. He didn't step back, didn't advance, just stood, boots rooted on the oil-flecked floor, the garage's echoes swallowing her whisper whole. Rain pattered insistent above, seeping through vents in a fine mist that beaded on the concrete pillars, carrying the faint, earthy bite of wet asphalt. Gasoline and rain, the motif of renewal stirring like a cleansing cycle. Droplets traced the limo's flank, rivulets carving clean paths through faint dust, mirroring the tracks on her face. "No," he replied softly, voice warm as idling manifold, threading the chill without raising. "You embarrassed yourself the day you traded respect for status, D. Not with the snap or the bet. With the leaving, Greyhound doors hissing shut, my sketches called cute under those street lamps. You built your roar, I tuned mine quiet, but the exhaust, that's on the choices." Her breath hitched, a stutter like a timing slip, the trench coat slipping open to reveal the silk blouse beneath, wrinkled now, a ghost of the yellow banner she'd worn for the performance. Flashback Claude, Detroit, humid dusk thick as transmission haze. Fago fizz on her tongue as she perched on the Buick's hood, Zalel's notebook open between them. I love you, Z, she'd murmured then, fingers tracing his grease-streaked jaw, the words warm but strained, ambition's undercurrent pulling her gaze to the distant spires. But this, Kellogg, the climb, it's my drive. His grin undimmed, promising someday, but she'd board it anyway, disbelief a gentle accelerator, he'll fade. Good boys like him don't summit. Now, that love echoed hollow, haunting the garage's dim, her admission spilling like overflow from a cracked reservoir. I did love you, she whispered, voice fracturing on the edge, stepping closer till the limo's grill pressed cool against her hip. Back then, under the fireflies. God, Z, you were everything. The fixes, the dreams, the way you'd hum Motown while torquing bolts. But I never believed you'd make it. Not without the shortcuts, the shine. I left because status was the only engine I knew. And now, you've lapped me twice over. Rain intensified above, a steady drum on the garage's roof that echoed down the vents. Cascading now, mist turning to sheets that slicked the concrete, pooling in oil-sheen iridescence around their feet. Gasoline and rain, the motif swelled, droplets hissing faint on the warm limo hood, steam curling like exhaled confessions, cleansing the air of staleness, renewal in every rivulet carving fresh paths. Diana's coat darkened with the damp, waves plastering to her neck, but she didn't retreat, the vulnerability a torque wrench turning inward, stripping the last veneer. Zalel's eyes softened, embers banked to glow, the chamois rag staying pocketed. No wipe needed here, truth polishing itself raw. He reached then, tentative as a diagnostic probe, his callous thumb brushing a tear from her cheek. Gentle, no claim, just the echo of driveway rituals long idled. Thank you for leaving, he said, voice soft as rain's patter, the words a quiet crank releasing pressure. Pushed me, D. Mama's stroke hit 3 days after your bus pulled out. Bills stacking like bad alignments, college shelved for gas station nights. Your goodbye. It revved something fiercer. Proved myself through purpose, not revenge. Bayflow, the lab, the core in that fleet up there. Built 'em piston by piston, no shortcuts. You gave me the open road. No bitterness in the timbre, just gratitude's steady hum, engines forgiving their backfires in the long haul. She leaned into the touch a beat, hazel gold eyes searching his boy-to-man, tease-to-torque, before stepping back, the rain's rhythm sinking their breaths, mist beating on her lashes like unshed mercy. I see it now, she murmured, voice steadying faint, the garage's chill yielding to the warmth of release. The man I prayed you'd be. Before greed rewrote my map. No apology hung, words too small for the revs between, but closure idled there, in the rain's cleansing wash, truth's rivulets carving peace from the grit. Zalel nodded once, thumb pocketing the rag's fold, the gesture a final polish. Take care of your drive, D. Engines run cleaner with clear lines. He turned then, boots splashing shallow in the pooling rain, toward the loaner limo, same obsidian beast from the showroom, elite transpose gift routed back for his use, a quiet perk from the viral swake. The driver waited curbside above, but Zalel slid behind the wheel himself, hybrid dash blooming blue under his touch, the autonomous suite purring to life with a seamless sync. Diana watched from the garage's throat, trench coat sodden, rain sheeting the vents like a veil lifting, her silhouette fracturing in the headlight sweep, pride's rust washed to renewal's gleam. He pulled out slow, tires hissing on the slick ramp, the limousine gliding into the downpour like a piston stroking home. City lights fractured through the storm, neon spires and bridge arcs gliding across the tinted windows in liquid streaks, past and present merging in the glass's mirror. Detroit street lamps flickering faint in the sodium glow, bay fog curling like Fago mist, Zalel's reflection steady amid the flow. No roar, just peace. Torque balanced, drive eternal, the rain's rhythm fading to a whisper as the skyline swallowed him whole. The rain's patter had long since softened to a memory, its rivulets dried on the garage's concrete, leaving behind a faint iridescence of oil sheens polished clean by time's chamois. Months blurred into a seamless drive since that subterranean reckoning. October's fog yielding to January's crisp bite, the Bay Area's skyline sharpening like a torque wrench turned true. Zalel Harrison's Hyundai had traded for the Obsidian Limousine's lease, a quiet upgrade from Elite Transpo's extended courtesy, its hybrid hum syncing with the Bart's rumble as he threaded Oakland mornings to the tower's glass maw. No fanfare marked the shift. Engines didn't announce their gears, they engaged them, piston by piston, in the long haul's unhurried rhythm. Herring Enterprises had recovered with the ferocity of a rebuilt V8. Faster, cleaner, its exhaust stripped of the old grit. The Gala's $120 million infusion from Vasquez's Apex had cascaded into a cascade. Series B rounds ballooning to $450 million, the prototype fleet scaling to 100 units rolling off a Reno fab line, eco-hybrid cores, Harrison Consulting's signature, pulsing at the heart of every chassis. TechCrunch hailed it as the Limo bet legacy, how one fix flipped Herring's fortunes. Embeds linking Zalel's licensed patents to the stock's 240% surge. Boardrooms buzzed with his name now, no longer whispered as the mop guy, but invoked as blueprint. Regenerative sequencing slashing emissions by 42%, thermal mapping holding charge through gridlock like a promise kept. Charles Herring steered the recovery with renewed crank Fury's embers from the showroom reforged into fuel, his memos mandating inclusive torque in every pitch deck. The tower gleamed taller, a chrome sentinel over the bay, its success not just attributed to Zalel's innovations but etched in them. Bay Flow Logistics contracted as the backbone, routing the fleet's autonomous dances with AI precision that shaved 29% off urban dwell times. Poetic Justice idled quiet. The underestimations bill paid in equity, the janitor's rag retired to a desk drawer, its threads woven into the empire's manifold. Diana's dissolution unfolded in the rearview, a slow downshift from the spotlight's glare. The marriage fractured not in headlines but in the hush of boardroom silences. Charles's fury at her vanity curdling to distance, their pietary nights stretching to separate coasts, his Napa retreats and her unannounced flights to Chicago. No scorched earth filings, just a quiet decree in November, assets split like a fair trade, the diamond ring pawned for a modest trust that echoed her Kellogg roots. Public life she exited on tiptoe, social feeds gone dark, Dumois blinds fading to footnotes, the hashtag LimoBet Queen recast as a cautionary reel. From gala gaffe to graceful fade, Diana Herring's humble pivot. Old classmates' pity texts tapered to silence, her father's old Buick, salvaged from Detroit storage. Now garaged in a Sausalito rental, a rust-flecked relic she polished Sundays with borrowed chamois, hands tracing the hood in rituals of what-ifs. Humbled, not hollowed, the rain's renewal had washed her status's shine to something softer, ambition's roar tuned to reflection's hum. She watched from afar, a ghost in the gallery, her hazel gold eyes learning the torque of listening. Zalel's ascent crested seamless, the lab's charter his chassis from day one. Head of automotive innovation now, his office perched on the mezzanine's edge. Smoked oaken glass, skyline framing the desk where Moleskine sprawled with hybrid evolutions, the Wayne State hoodie hung beside tailored broadcloth like dual cams. No ivory tower. He wheeled the floors still, uniforms swapped for polos that bore faint grease ghosts, mentoring interns from Oakland co-ops on thermal flows and torque vectors. The foundation launched in December, Harrison Legacy Initiative, bootstrapped from Bayflow dividends, $2.5 million seeded to minority engineers. Scholarships for Detroit kids with grease under nails, hackathons in Jack London lofts prototyping clean cores for underserved routes. First cohort, 20 scholars, Rico guest lecturing on AI manifolds, Evelyn's framed smile beaming from the website's masthead. Build routes to tomorrow, the tagline hummed, no hashtags needed. Impact idling deeper than viral spikes, purpose's steady rev outpacing applause. The press event crowned it all in late March, the showroom reborn under spring's tentative sun, floor-to-ceiling glass sluicing light across the new eco-limousine series like liquid torque. Harrison Drive Systems, his signature etched in Falcon Grille chrome, lined the velvet ropes. 12 units in obsidian and pearl, hybrids humming blue-silent, regenerative packs promising 650-mile ranges on city sips. Halos bathed them in haloed gleam, the red lead prototype, once witness to the snap, enthroned center stage, its hood a canvas of polished narrative. Photographers crowded the floor, Nikons chirping like over-caffeinated relays, flashes popping off the marble in staccato bursts. TechCrunch's embed crew splicing B-roll, Forbes profiler circling for the money shot, CNN's cheerin' prepped. From janitor to innovator, Zalal Harrison unveils Herring's green fleet. Reporters throng the podium, mics thrust like diagnostic probes. Mr. Harrison, the hashtag LimoBet origin, does it fuel this launch? He fielded them even, voice warm as manifold glow. That was just a pit stop. This, the open road. Charles flanked him, cufflink subdued, a nod of concession in the grip that sealed the division's autonomy. The audience swelled beyond the ropes, investors in slim suits, scholars from the Foundation's first wave clutching branded fobs, Vasquez herself perched front row with a tablet of apex projections. Zalal scanned the faces mid-Q and A, his broadcloth sleeves rolled casual, the faint chamois scent lingering from a morning wipe down in the lab. There, back row shadows, unobtrusive as fog, Diana. Humbled silhouette in a simple wool shift, waves loose and unstyled, no diamonds to catch the light, her hazel gold eyes fixed on him, not with a haunt of garage rain, but a quiet watch, reflections torque turning inward. No press badge, no entourage. She'd slipped in through a side door, ticket comped anonymous from Charles's PR ghost, watching the man she'd called cute command the chrome she once mocked. Their gazes locked fleeting, a piston pause, embers acknowledging the fire, and she nodded once, faint, lips curving in something softer than regret, Grace's idle renewal's hum. The event crested with the ribbon cut, Zalal's shears slicing silk under flashes that rivaled the halos, the fleet's collective hum rising like a chorus of clean promise. Photographers surged closer, lenses grinding for the frame. Head Harrison beside his namesake drive, the red limo's grill a sentinel of poetic justice. Reporters peeled off for sidebars, the floor thinning to murmurs as the series idled for touch and feels, scholars circling the hybrids with wide-eyed torque. Zalal excused himself from Charles's congratulations, weaving the crowd's fringe toward the red lead, its chrome blooming under the sun's slant, a mirror to the month's manifold turns. He approached slow, boots soft on the marble that once echoed his cart's casters, calloused hand extending to rest on the hood, palm flat against the warm alloy, feeling the faint vibration of the core beneath, his core, regenerative and resilient. The touch grounded him, a ritual echo of Detroit driveways, Evelyn's oak, the garage's rain-slick vents. Photographers caught it peripheral, snaps chirping, but he tuned them out, voice dropping quiet as thermal whisper, words for the machine more than the mic. Engines don't lie. They only need someone who listens. The red limo's surface drank the light, reflecting the showroom's swirl-back fragmented. Flashes popping like fireflies reborn, scholars' grins torque-bright, Charles's silhouette conferring with Vasquez, Diana's form fading toward the exit in unhurried grace. Zalal's own image gleamed central in the polished chrome, no longer the janitor's gray ghost, apron heavy with chamois and slight, but the man who'd rebuilt his destiny with his own two hands. Broadcloth sleeves bearing faint grease scars, jaw set in purpose's steady line, brown eyes steady on the skyline's endless rev past and present merged there, in the hood's unyielding mirror, Detroit street lamps flickering faint in the alloy's depth. Bay spires rising chrome sharp, the torque of legacy. Idling eternal, unbowed, unbound.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you would surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.